Alright, welcome to another video, and as you can see, we are throwing it way back. We're in Flight Simulator 10 or FSX today, and there's a reason for that. This is a really sentimental video that I'm making. It was actually quite a mission to get this working, but this is the PMDG Jetstream 41 or the JS41, and this was the very first payware aircraft that I bought for Flight Sim probably 10 years ago. And on top of that, we are going to be flying it from the city that I currently live in to the city where I grew up. So we're flying from Johannesburg, South Africa, all the way down to the small, well, not really small town, as PACX chimes in there.
As you find your seat, be sure to place your larger carry-on items in the overhead bins and smaller items.
Not really small town, it's not a tiny town, but it has a very small airport with a very interesting approach. So we're going to be doing quite a challenging RNF approach into Pietermaritzburg, which we'll have a look at. It's just over an hour, this flight, and we're cruising at 21,000 feet today. And the other thing is we are using FS2 Crew, so we get our virtual co-pilot who will do checklists with us on the way down. So let's jump into the cockpit and start setting up. Okay, so we're going to go up to the overhead panel and we'll turn on the batteries and the ground power assistance. Now, it has been several years since I flew this aircraft, so I'm going to do my best to remember all of the steps, but I'm probably going to miss things as we go along. We can turn on the nav lights. Let's bring the avionics on. One thing I do remember is that we have to turn the avionics off again before we actually start the engines. So we're going to go and set up as much as we can, do all of our checks, but then we're going to have to turn that off and reconfigure the FMS or the FMC. I don't even know what you would call this. FMS probably. And because we're an old school FSX,
we're ready to go when you are.
No Oratambo, it's still the old code, so Juliet Sierra. There is our route, so we're not actually going to plug any of that in because we're going to have to redo it once we've started the engines in any case. Okay, so batteries are on, that's all good, nav lights are on. We can also put on the seatbelts and no smoking, and that was PACX just confirming that we are ready to go. So these pumps can come on as well, and I'm definitely not doing this all in the correct order, but like I said, I haven't flown this aircraft for many years, so just trying to remember, and it's all slowly coming back, slowly but surely. And I do remember that all of our window heats, etc., anti-ice, our co-pilot will do for us as we get ready to depart. So let's do our turn check. Pre-flight brief is complete, external check complete. Pressurization, we need to put in our landing elevation. So I'm going to jump into active sky here. Let's get the elevation, so 2,421 feet, so go and dial that in. And this is going to take quite a while. Okay, so 2,420, so pressurization, that is set. Cabin signs are on. Oxygen, we need to go and check somewhere on this side here.
Okay.
I can't remember. I'm sure there's a button somewhere that we have to press. Oh wait, maybe it's down here. No, there's nothing. That's just going to change there. Okay, so can't remember where to test the oxygen. Right, so there's the first thing we're missing, but let's continue. So he's gonna do these checks anyway. Cargo, smoke and fire, he'll test. Parking brake, reset. No? Clearance brief complete, FMS radios set. Our FMS we will set when we are ready to, or once we've started the engines. Okay, let's go and open up this menu. And I actually just want to turn this volume up a little bit.
Hi, I'm back. Everything looks good.
Hi, Captain. May we start boarding now?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so our virtual co-pilot there is
Okay.
okay, so he's busy just testing out some of the systems. That was him checking the oxygen. Now he's checking of the other warning systems. There's your aircraft, your engine fires. The engine fire systems. Right, we need to sort out our weight and balance, which we do over here. So, for today's flight, if I pull up brief.
Minimums. Glide slope. Bank angle. Bank angle.
The fuel on board 1260. Now, if I remember correctly, actually, this is all in
My
pounds.
cockpit prep is complete.
So I'm going to have to do a conversion. Great. Okay. So we need kilograms to pounds. So that would be 2,777 pounds. So we'll do 2,780 pounds.
The passenger boarding is complete, and I have a load sheet here for you when you're ready.
Thank you.
Have a safe flight.
I'm just muting it in between, otherwise when I talk, they keep picking up commands that I'm not actually giving them. Okay, 2,780 pounds fuel set. Then, the question is, does that actually set our fuel? That looks about right. Does it? 780. Double check that. So it's slightly more actually loaded into the aircraft, which is interesting, but that's alright. We'll take a little bit extra fuel. Let's just see if I actually increase this. It doesn't change there. Huh. Okay, so what we should actually set here is what we've got there in the aircraft, because we're not going to defuel for the flight. So let me again. So that's 2940. So that's what we should actually set here. 2940. Otherwise, if we had less, obviously we'd just fuel the plane up, but we're not going to take fuel out. Right. So our zero fuel weight for today is 9441. So obviously that's in kgs. So let's just convert that again. 9441 is 20813, so 0.84, so we'll round up 20,814. So we need to get this up. So number of packs, we have 29, so we can add a few passengers in here, just scatter them about randomly. Yes, 29, that's taken us to 27, so we need another 6. Not 6, we need another 101 pounds worth of cargo. So we'll put some of that. That's fine. We'll put some of it in the pod, like so. So zero fuel weight of 20,814 pounds. Set. Next is all of this. We don't have any of that flight duration today. We are expecting over an hour and a half. I think I might have said an hour earlier. It's just over, it's about an hour and 40 minutes. So we'll set 1.6. And this is all good to go. So this would light up red if we were overweight on the landings. Okay, another really cool thing that I found super cool about this plane when I first got it is you can click on this little speed card here and you can page through with the different weights. Coffee stains on there. It's obviously been used a lot. These are old aircraft. We're actually flying for Airlink in South Africa, and I don't know of any other airlines that still operate this aircraft. Airlink still has a few on the shorter routes, but I don't know of anyone else who still operates this in like an airline sense. I know there's a couple of charter companies that do, but I think Airlink is the only one. We don't actually have to set the speeds because our co-pilot will very kindly do that for us. Okay, so we can go and get ready to start here. So let's double check that we have both batteries on with the correct voltage. So we've got 25.5 volts on each side. Perfect. GPU is connected. Fuel pressure in the green arc. So where do we find that? Be one of these here most likely. Fuel pressure, both green. Perfect. Okay, then we need to check EGT for the engines below 200 degrees. They're around 43, 42. That's great. Cabin there. Set the torque bug for takeoff, and this is something that has always defeated me. I'm going to set that to 90%. And I believe with FS to crew, when you call for set power, he's supposed to set it to match that torque bug, but every time I've asked first officer to set the power, he goes way above and we burn the engines up. So I'm going to do that myself. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. In all likelihood, I'm doing it wrong, but that's the way I'm going to do it. Okay, and then set elevator trim to the percentage MC. So I think we get that on here.
Hi, Captain. The cabin is ready to go.
Thank you.
If you need anything, just let me know.
Right. Oh no, idiot. It's on here. Trim 25.7. 30. There's 20. 5 is about in. Right, so trim is set. I think we are ready to start doing. Right, turn check. Turn check.
Pre-flight brief.
Complete.
Are you sure about that? External check.
Okay.
Complete. Pressurization.
Set.
Cabin signs.
Set.
Oxygen.
Checked.
Checked. Cargo smoke and fire.
Test.
Parking brake.
Set.
Clearance brief.
Okay.
Are you sure about that? FMS and radios.
Set.
Set. Turn check complete.
The reason... So the reason why I was asking if I'm sure on those briefs is because you're supposed to say something and I completely forgot to do that. But we are fine on the brief, it doesn't affect anything else. So the next thing we're going to do is before start.
Stand by.
Okay.
Aircraft log and release. Gear pins,
Load.
beacons, navs.
Set.
Fuel.
£20,814 checked. Oh, that's definitely the wrong value. £2,900 checked.
2,939 pounds on board. Checked. Doors, refuel.
Closed.
Batteries.
On. Set.
Before start checklist complete.
Okay, so now we can go ahead and get ready to start the engines. So, double check that the props are unfeathered, which they are. We have to do now is start our left engine. Okay, I just remembered that I had a checklist from the FS to crew workflow, so I've got that now. Now I have a much better understanding of what I'm supposed to be doing, so hopefully we shouldn't be missing anything. Okay, so we've just done the before start check, and now we're going to engine start. So make sure the EGTs are below 200 degrees, we've checked that. The prop is unfeathered, checked. Ignition is in the normal position, and the condition levers are in taxi. Okay, so condition levers are in taxi, props are unfeathered. Where is the ignition switch? Oh, I'd have thought it was up here somewhere. Here. Okay, it is in the normal position. That's what they said, right? Correct. Awesome. We're actually going to get the first officer to start the engines for us. Let's go. Clear and start left.
Check the throttle position.
Ah, I remember this. Okay, so we need to get this to exactly 0. Like such. Clear and start left. Clear and start left.
Starting left.
There we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the front of the aircraft for a safety demonstration. When the seatbelt light is on, please make sure that your seatbelt is fastened.
So we'll wait for him
low
to say
across
engine
your legs.
stabilized.
To fasten, insert the metal fittings
There's the
into
cutout
one
of the
another.
starter.
Tighten by pulling on the loose end of the strap. To release your seatbelt, lift
Engine
the upper
stable.
portion of the buckle.
There we go.
In the event that the seatbelt light is not on, we
Okay,
suggest
so
that
verify
you keep your seatbelt fastened
indications are in the
case of
normal
unexpected
range. That all looks good.
There are several emergency exits on this aircraft. Please take a few moments now to locate your nearest exit. In some cases, your nearest exit may be behind you. If we
Okay,
need
signal to the ground
evacuate
crew.
aircraft, floor-level lighting will guide you towards the exit. In the event that the cabin loses pressure, an oxygen mask will drop right in front of you. Start the flow of oxygen, pull the mask towards you. Place it firmly over your nose and mouth, and secure the elastic band behind your head. Tighten the straps if necessary and breathe normally. Although the bag does not inflate, oxygen is flowing to the mask. If you are traveling with a child or someone who requires assistance, secure your mask first and then assist others. Leave your mask on until a member of the crew advises you it's safe to remove it. In the unlikely event of a water landing, a life vest is located in a pouch under your seat or between the armrests. When instructed to do so, open the plastic pouch and remove the vest. Flip it over your head. Wrap the straps around your waist and buckle at the front. Pull the straps tight. To inflate the vest, pull firmly on the red cord only when exiting the aircraft.
Okay,
If it doesn't
let's do the
inflate
right engine.
automatically, you may blow into the mouth.
Clear and start right.
Starting
Press
right.
the clip with a whistle and a light. If you need to, your seat cushion can be used as a secondary pushing device. Please make sure to exit the aircraft as soon as possible and leave your belongings. Please securely stow your personal items. Make sure your seatbelts are fastened and seat backs and tray tables are in their full upright position. We remind you that this is a non-smoking flight. Tampering
What's
with,
that ETT?
disabling, or destroying the smoke detectors located in the lavatories is prohibited by law. All of this information can be found in the safety card located in the seat back in front of you.
GT looks
Please
fine.
read it and let a cabin member know if you have any questions. Thank you for flying with us again, and we hope you enjoy your flight.
Cut out.
Okay, so this is the starter cutout, and when he calls engine stable, we will perform the after start flow.
Engine stable.
There we go. Okay, so set flows to position 10. And then as required.
Gas system test, okay.
Ensure all flight instruments have no flags. That all looks good. Arm the spoilers, which is here. Set up the weather radar. We don't have that in this aircraft. Arm the APR switch if required, which we don't actually. We'll arm that. Then release the start lock. So this aircraft has something unique on the engine in that it has start locks, which means we need to pull the throttles back into reverse to disengage the start locks before we can actually use the engines correctly. So we'll slowly pull these back until the first officer calls that the start locks have been removed.
Start locks removed.
There we go.
Nice.
And we'll slowly bring it back to 0.
My after start flow is done.
Okay, so he's ready, and we are ready. So let's go to after start check. After start check.
Emergency lights armed. Spoilers
Armed.
APR
Off.
ice protection test. Fuel system test. After start check complete.
We're ready for departure.
Okay, so the cabin is all ready to go. We're ready to go, so we'll go taxi light on.
Taxi light off.
Not off. On. Okay. And we can start moving out now. So let's release the parking brake and we will just taxi out. So we are... before I forget, let's re-engage the parking brake and just sort out the FMC. So we are departing 03 left, that's correct. Let's double check this is alright. Okay, so we are doing 03 left, APDAC 1 Bravo, which I don't see there. It's given us 1 Alpha, I don't see 1 Bravo. This is kind of a... It's possible it's outdated, so we'll go with 1 Alpha, it's not a huge difference. Okay, so that's set. Then we need to go here to nav and actually confirm our first 2. Why is that not picking it up? Because I didn't actually accept it, I think. Right, so flight plan. There we go, flight plan list. We are doing number 3. Because it doesn't know where this is. So we need this one. And then we need to choose select and confirm it. Let's just double check. We'll probably have to set this again. There's APDAC 1 Bravo. Okay. And 1 Bravo is off the 2-1 runways, so that's why it wasn't showing up. So we'll do 1 Alpha then, because we want to go off runway 3. Perfect. So that's all good. Now we can come here and confirm our first 2 waypoints, so we can start that up. Go into plan, and our reserve fuel for today is 305. And we can enter that. That's all we need to put in for now. Under VNav, if we go into, so we put our cruise altitude of 21,000. Transition level here is 10,000. And we are set. Let's go here to our TCAS. We are 1, 3, 2, 4. And he should set that for us as well. We can also come here. That's set to 10,000. He'll set the speeds as we taxi, and we'll get him to set our autopilot once we take off. So let's taxi out to runway 03. That is taking quite a lot of getting used to back into flight sim after majority of the time flying X-Plane and the new flight sim. One of the things that I've really got to try and remember is to push the space bar to look around. Okay, so let's do our flow. So to press the go around button, which is that one, that gives us our flight director for takeoff, which is cool. We will verify that the brakes are working, which they definitely are. Uncage the standby artificial horizon and set the runway heading and initial climb to 10,000 is fine because we have no ATC today. Okay, so we'll go taxi check.
Stand by.
So he's set flaps 9, which is perfect. And now he's setting our V speeds for takeoff.
Flight attendant, prepare for departure, please.
Let's just check what this warning is. Probably the APR. Oh, the anti-skid. Why do we have an anti-skid warning?
Start clocks,
Removed?
flaps,
None set and indicating.
9 set and indicating, trims.
Green and 32.
Green and 32, cap,
Understood, unmuted.
understood, unmuted. Instruments,
Checked.
1, 0, 1, 3, checked. Takeoff data,
Set and checked. Set.
ice AOA off, speeds set. Takeoff free.
Complete.
Complete. Flight attendant advised, taxi check complete.
Okay, so let's figure out why we have an anti-skid warning. There must be an anti-skid switch somewhere that is not on. Anti-skid on. Sorted. Okay, what's next? Okay, departure check. And while that's happening, we'll check our controls. Departure check.
Stand by. Flight controls.
Free.
Free. Turquoise test. Transponder on the line.
Cleared for takeoff.
Ignition, anti-ice.
Normal off.
Close off. Condition leaders flight. Departure check complete.
Okay, I think we're just about ready to go. We don't need any anti-ice. Okay, so I just turned on the landing lights and the strobes there, so we are ready to enter the runway and take off. So what I do want to do is change this over, and then LNAV should give us a map like such. Okay, that looks like a bit of an issue in our routing, which we'll sort out once we take off. Okay, here we go. Have to be really careful on the torque of these engines and the EGT. So you can see it kind of builds up, so slowly introducing the throttle so that we don't overheat the engines or push the torque too far. So there we go, there's power set.
70 knots.
Check. My column.
Your column. V1 rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up. Positive rate, gear up.
Positive rate, gear up.
Okay, so our acceleration altitude is 6,500, which we're coming up on now. A little bit bumpy today. Okay, there we go. So, flaps up after takeoff check.
Flaps up and stand by for the checklist. After takeoff, check complete. Check speed. Minimum speed is 170 knots.
Set vertical speed up 1,000. Autopilot on.
Speed up 1,000. Set. Autopilot on.
Okay, so we've got the autopilot in there, following our nav course. Now, one thing that doesn't work in the Steam version of FSX is the IAS. So normally we'd set the IAS and let that just keep us at our climb speed of about 175, 180 knots. But that doesn't work, so we're going to have to just use vertical speed mode. Is the autopilot actually on? Yes, it is. So let's put on our bank limit in soft ride as well. And the speed is slowly building up now. Okay, let's figure out why we have this issue. So we're coming to flight plan, ABDAC, I wonder which waypoint that is back here. So there's 101 that we're going to now, then out to ABDAC, and then Gav, which comes all the way back here, so that is correct. It's quite a long way out to ABDAC for no reason. I think we'll cut that short. So instead of going all the way out to ABDAC, let us ditch that. So how do we do that here now? I think we have to just delete this, right? Like that. Bam. That looks better. Okay, now let's get our first officer to set up our autopilot. So we'll go bug flight level 210. And he's setting the altitude.
Heading.
No, not hitting.
Right.
Oops.
Level
Oh.
210. Set.
Okay, that's why I need to keep muting, otherwise when I say something like heading or altitude, he's going to change things on the autopilot. Okay, so we're looking good. We're following our departure, which we're going to do pretty much a 180 here in a moment. There we go. And head back south towards Pietermaritzburg. When we cross 10,000 feet, yeah, also I should have disarmed the ground spoilers. So when we pass 10,000 feet, I can't remember if he does the landing lights or if I have to do it myself. I think I might have to do it.
Climbing through flight level 1.
Oh, he's doing it. Awesome. What a cool aircraft. It's not particularly modern, it's not fancy, but it really is a cool little aircraft to fly. And it makes it more interesting, more challenging, that we have a lot less automation. We gotta manually manage our speed, manage our throttles, all the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now passed 10,000 feet. We may turn on larger portable electronic devices.
Did he turn the seatbelt sign off? No. We can do that.
The duration of the flight and do not form a line near the lavatory.
Okay, so we've got to keep a close eye on our EGT there. So we don't want to, our torque is not an issue, but this is what's limiting our throttle, so we're going to keep an eye on that. And you can see as we climb and we get into the cooler air, our EGT is going to come down. And up here we have our limit, which is going to change, I believe, depending on certain situations. At the moment our limit is 522, 523, we're at 509. So we want to kind of push it up to that little white line over there. That's kind of our max EGT that we can use. And we're climbing at 180 knots, which is perfect. 800 feet a minute. It's not exactly the most powerful aircraft, but here in Johannesburg we are hot and high conditions, so that is kind of to be expected. Okay, we'll also go and set this to standard. While we're climbing up to our cruise altitude, I actually want to just talk about what made me decide to fly this aircraft, as we are now passing back over our Tambo where we took off from. So that's runway 03 there where we took off. So a bit of a weird departure route. But so I just want to mention why this is such a sentimental flight again, and why I chose this. The other night on one of my streams, one of my viewers was actually asking, what's my favorite aircraft to fly in the sim? And it was a difficult question to answer. I was kind of put on the spot, and it was hard to choose. And I think I probably said the A319 or something like that. But after that stream, I thought about it quite a while, and I thought, you know, this Jetstream 41, I think this is still my favorite aircraft. This is the first aircraft, the first payware aircraft that I bought for flight sim over 10 years ago, and there's still something about it that I just absolutely love. It's a really kind of hands-on aircraft. You've got to manage all the systems. There's a lot of little quirks, like things like the start locks and the EGT. You've got to make sure you pull your throttles back after takeoff before the first officer sets the condition levers, otherwise you overheat the engines, stuff like that. So I think I'd have to change my answer from that stream and say that the Jetstream is my favorite aircraft to fly, which is why I decided to dust this off out of the virtual hangar, get FSX working again, get this working, and do a kind of sentimental flight in my first ever aircraft all the way back to my hometown of Pietermaritzburg, where I grew up. And that leads me on to how I actually got interested in aviation. You'll see when we arrive in Pietermaritzburg, it's a small little airport, and the only airliners, if you can even call this an airliner as such, but the only airliners that flew into the airport were these. So my very first exposure to airports and aviation was in my primary school, when we went to the airport to do a kind of like school tour, and they showed us around the airport and what was happening. And one of the things we did was we watched one of these aircraft land, taxi in, we watched all the passengers get off, and then we watched the aircraft start up again on the ramp, taxi out and take off. And I remember just watching the start up procedure, because the aircraft used to park kind of not directly facing the terminal, but at a slight angle, and it's so close, there's no jetways or anything, you just walk across the ramp, so you park so close to the area, the waiting area where people sit, that I could actually see the pilots through the window, and I watched them flicking all the switches, and you could see them going through the checklist and talking to each other and configuring all these switches, and I just found it so interesting. And then, my school was actually my high school was on the approach path to the airport, and so every time one of these aircraft came in, they would fly right over the school low, already configured for landing, gear down, flaps out, and that was the kind of only aircraft that I saw. And then I remember traveling to Durban, which is about an hour away, and Durban has a big international airport, and being in Durban and seeing the 737s all the time flying around, seeing 747s and 777s coming into the airport there, and just being so fascinated by these giant aircraft, because all I'd ever seen were these little jet streams. And I think that was kind of my first taste of aviation and how I actually got interested in flying. So that's why we're in the jet stream, that's why we're back in FSX, throwing it back hardcore. And yeah, if you're watching this video, whoever it was who asked on the stream what my favorite aircraft is, I'm gonna have to pick the jet stream. I really do enjoy flying it. There's just something special about it, and I think that's probably the reason. And I couldn't believe, you know, when I found out years later how, you know, I thought that the airport bought these aircraft, and you know, our little airport, they owned all of these jet streams. I had no idea about how airlines worked and all of that. And so when I got into flight sim and I found that this was, you know, one of the first aircraft that PMDG worked on, I couldn't believe, you know, this was the aircraft that I grew up watching all the time, and it was the first one I picked up and started flying. So yeah, a very special aircraft to me. And so that's why we're in the jet stream. Okay, so as you can see, we're climbing at 500 feet a minute at the moment. So it's going to take us a while to get up to cruise, so I'm not going to make you watch all of that. I will join you guys again when we're up in the cruise and starting to get ready and prep our descent. So see you in a bit. Alright, so we're back now in the cruise, about 145 or so miles to go. But as you can see, the weather's actually pretty bad along here, so we've been through some kind of mild weather, some storm systems below us there. Had a little bit of icing, which was still picking up, but nothing too crazy. What we do need to do, oh, the other thing I need to mention is I updated the runway to, we'll be going into runway 34. So just coming in from the other side because of the wind in Maritzburg. But we do need to just do a couple of calculations. So let me grab this. Alright, so what we're going to do is just work out how far away from the airport we need to start our descent. And I have a little formula for working this out. So we take our cruise altitude, which is 21,000 feet, and we subtract our final approach fix altitude. So looking at the chart here, we want to be at Nigel. Well, actually, let's take next ab. So we're gonna go down to next ab at 6,000 feet. Right. So that tells us, obviously, taking our cruise and minusing the flight level that we want to end up at is going to tell us how far we need to descend. So 21,000 minus 6,000 means that we need to descend 15,000 feet. We then convert that to a flight level effectively by dividing...
Level 8,000 set.
And we now essentially convert that to a flight level by dividing by 100, which means we are descending, well, which gives us 150. So we then take that 150 divided by 3, because we're going to descend at a 3-degree glide path, and that gives us 50 nautical miles. So that means we need to initiate our descent at 50 nautical miles. But we also need to work out how to make sure that we're descending at that 3-degree path in order for this calculation to be correct. And for that, we take our ground speed and times it by 5. So if I look here, our ground speed currently is 337. So, and we can obviously control that while we're descending. So let's take a ground speed of 330, and then we times that by 5, and that gives us 1,650. So we need to start our descent at 50 nautical miles, and we need to descend at 1,650 feet per minute. So we're going to keep a ground speed of 330 and descend at 1,650 feet per minute, and then we should end up at 6,000 feet when we reach the initial approach fix. So on the formula it actually says final approach fix, but I want to make sure that we're at the correct altitude by NEXAB, which is our initial approach fix. So we should make NEXAB at 6,000 feet. So if we have a look, our distance to S-Tex is 118 miles, but our distance to the PMRS weight for VOR is still about 130 miles. So let's look over here. Now, if I remember correctly, I think there was a way to change this from time to distance, but I cannot remember at all how to do that. That would be pretty helpful though. Interesting. Well, I wonder what that option is for me, because it doesn't seem to change anything. But if we maybe go here, I definitely think you can change this somehow.
Transition Alpha 0.
Okay, but again, I'll cut the video so we don't have to watch all of this, and I will join you again when we are ready to go through our descent procedure. Alright, so we're coming up to 50 miles away from the VOR, so let's start setting up for our descent. Let's start setting up for the approach.
Okay. Flight attendant, prepare for arrival.
Okay, so we will go seatbelt signs on. We are using the FMS to bring ourselves in. Frequencies, we have the VOR set. Select the approach type on the config panel. That is set as well. Double check the landing elevation 2420 set. He's setting our V speeds and all of that.
Approach setup complete.
Are you ready for the arrival and approach brief?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we will be doing the RNAV approach into runway 34 at Pietermaritzburg. So we will be initially descending to 6,000 feet at NEXAB. We then make a left turn to 256 degrees, descending to 5,660 at Nigel, where we make a right turn to 346, and that puts us on, or 346, sorry, that puts us onto the approach for runway 34 at Pietermaritzburg. In terms of speed, once we are on that heading of 346 degrees, it's a maximum speed of 130 knots, which is no issue for us in the jet stream. Right, so we're just about ready to start our descent. Any questions?
No questions.
Descent approach check.
Altimeters.
Set.
1013. Checked. Flight attendant. Advised. Pressurization set. Spoilers. Armed. Fuel balance. Crossfeed. In limits. Shut. APR. Armed. ICE AOA. On. Landing data. Set. Arrival brief.
Complete.
Complete. Approach brief.
Complete.
Complete. Descent approach check complete.
Bug altitude 6,000. Set vertical speed down 1,700.
Altitude 6,000 set. Vertical speed down 1,700 set.
Okay, so that's us now beginning our descent into Pietermaritzburg. So I did check the weather and everything looks fine. So as you can see, we're coming in and we're kind of going over the airport and then circling around to do the approach. It does look pretty cloudy out that way, but according to the reports for the weather at the airport, no significant clouds or precipitation or anything like that. We're still picking up ice. Yeah, we are. So we'll just keep cycling our boots. Set vertical speed down 1,600.
Vertical speed down 1,600 set.
Okay, so everything looking good so far. I'm just trying to manage that descent. Felt like we were descending a little bit fast, so I've bumped up the throttle a little bit, which will give us higher ground speed, and reduced the descent rate slightly, so we should be all good in terms of reaching 6,000 feet by NEXAB, which I think is this waypoint there, I believe. actually entirely sure where all of these extra ones come from. See, there's Nexab. It's not too much of an issue though. So I think we can. I don't want to fiddle with it now and mess it up, because this is going to be quite an intense approach. Okay, so let's have a look and see. FS to crew is muted, so I can say things like talking about the flaps. Okay, our altimeter in Marisburg is 1010. So let's go and set that now. And the next thing to set up is going to be the flaps. So flaps and gear next. And that's pretty much it. We're just gonna have to make sure we follow this approach carefully to make sure that we can actually see the runway, because it does look pretty cloudy towards the airport, which is kind of in that direction. Okay, so we don't have any ice on the boots, but we're still getting the ice warning, so I think we'll leave the anti-ice on. What's our outside temperature? It's 14 degrees, so we shouldn't have issues. I'm going to bring the anti-ice off, and I'm going to turn on these conspicuously lights just for some extra visibility. I mean, visibility of us, because the approach that we're doing, when we're down at Nexab, we're actually on this approach. We spend a lot of our approach time actually outside of controlled airspace, so we technically be doing this, you know, uncontrolled and announcing our intentions on the broadcast frequency. I wonder if you have to be VFR to do that. I don't think so, because I often saw these aircraft coming in on these approaches in definite IMC conditions. So that would be interesting to know. There's the city of Pietermaritzburg on our left hand side. Now in reality there is kind of a hill in front of it, but it doesn't sit on like a plateau like that, so that's not entirely realistic. But obviously that's most likely being an issue with Flight Sim 10 only being able to have flat runways, because Pietermaritzburg's runway does have quite a slope in it, if I remember correctly. There's definitely like a little hill that exists right in front of the airport, and you kind of go up to the airport like that. So there's just some elevation limitations of the older sim. That's runway 16 that we're facing now. And I'm hoping after this we should turn out to Nexab, which is exactly what's going to happen. Okay, so visibility not an issue here at Pietermaritzburg. Okay, so now we'll turn out to the left.
To go.
And then we'll come all the way around from the right, or in a right turn, to line up with runway 34.
Runway in sight.
Okay, so there we are at our 6,000 feet.
Where's that EGT?
Interesting EGT spike there. And I think what I'm going to do is... No, that's all fine. Okay, so fuel looks good. Elevation is set. Everything seems to be set just fine for this approach. So now that I'm thinking about it, we probably actually would have done the Avuso arrival, which comes from the other side. But this is the routing that was planned, so I kind of just stuck to the planned route. Okay, so let's see if we can actually just go here and go direct to Nigel. Like so. That'll turn us out to the right. And then we can start slowing down. Okay, flap speeds. 9 degrees below 200 knots, and so 200, I think that's 180, possibly 160, 140. I think it actually might be 160. Right, so let's start configuring ourselves for the landing. Condition levers flight.
Condition levers flight.
Flaps 9.
Flaps 9. Flight attendant, be seated for landing, please.
Gear down.
Gear down.
Also just need to remember that 130 knot restriction once we turn towards the runway after Nigel. So bringing the speed back. Flaps 15.
Flaps 15.
And we'll disengage the autopilot here. And flaps 25. Flaps 25.
Flaps 25.
Landing check.
Landing gear.
Down for runway 34.
Down for runway 34. Flaps 25 set and indicating. Condition leavers flight. Close 3. Flight attendant advised. Landing check complete.
Okay, so we are pretty much all set for landing. Do have that 130 knot restriction, but that feels pretty slow though. Even in the jet stream. There we go, we're below 130 knots, so not too much of an issue. Runway is in sight. Clear to land. Yeah, definite bug with the airport elevation there, but that's something that happened quite often in the older flight sim. Okay, so let's increase our descent rate a bit here. Short runway, so we want to touch down relatively close to the threshold. We don't want to make this landing too deep. One thing that's nice about landing on runway 34 is the terminals at the other end of the runway. So you'll see at this end there's actually a space to turn the aircraft around, because if you land on runway 16 you have to turn around and taxi all the way back out, but we'll go straight into the terminal because we're landing on 34, which just saves a bit of time.
Altitude 2760 set.
And I forgot to
1000.
mute FS to crew, so that's why he's picking up things. I should set that to plug altitude 5000.
Speed 28 set.
Terrain. 500.
Altitude to 5,000 set.
Bug altitude 5,000. Alright, here we go.
Sync rate. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Altitude 5,000 set. $70 knots.
Out of reverse, condition levers taxi.
Condition levers to taxi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached our destination. The local time is 7:05 a.m. and it's currently about 90 degrees Celsius. You can now use your mobile devices. Please remain seated
Off the
until
landing check.
aircraft has come to a complete
Stand by.
stop and the seatbelt sign is turned off. Remember to use caution when opening the overhead bins as items may have shifted during the flight. As this is your final destination, we thank you for flying with us and we hope to see you again soon. We apologize for the delay. Please coordinate with airline staff as necessary regarding connecting flights or vouchers.
After landing check complete. Are you going to turn the exterior lights off?
Doing it now, sassy. Jeez. Okay, so strobe lighting, consistency lights off, spoilers off, weather radar not implemented, recage the standby attitude indicator.
Okay.
Okay, taxi light off. Taxi light off.
Taxi light off.
Right. Shutdown check.
The engines haven't had 3 minutes to cool down yet.
Oh, okay, so we need to wait for the engines to cool down. So, PACX was saying, apologies for the delay. Did we take that long? Oof, yeah, okay, so about 12 minutes late. Shutdown check.
The engines haven't had 3 minutes to cool down yet.
I seem to remember he doesn't actually tell us when it's 3 minutes. Okay, so when we do shut down, we set the parking brake, which is done, and then as the first officer will switch off the engines, and as they come through 50%, we need to go full reverse to set the start locks. And he pretty much does the rest, we just monitor the engines. Shutdown check.
Stand by.
There's 72% at the moment. Like so. And that'll set the start locks for the next start sequence.
Shutdown check complete. Debrief items.
Okay, and that brings us to the end of our flight. Our passengers can now exit. So in reality, actually, the terminal is kind of over here, and the aircraft actually parks sort of this way. So not perfectly accurate, but that is to be expected. But in any case, this is still one of my absolute favorite aircraft to fly. As you can tell, pretty rusty. Like, there were a couple of mistakes we made. Just like the most recent ones on the landing, slowed down pretty much to a stop on the runway. That was just trying to find things in the cockpit and on the checklist. But other than that, pretty cool flight back into my town where I grew up on the first aircraft that I ever bought for flight sim, and yeah, really enjoyable. Always loved the Jetstream, so I think I'm picking this as my favorite aircraft to fly, and maybe we'll do some more flying in this aircraft. It is fantastically modeled by PMDG as always, even though it's one of their very first aircraft they made. But I think that's pretty much it for today. So once again, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in another video soon.